Hey there, Tiffany Thomas with WealthyTiffany.com, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you my $1 million portfolio. But before we dive in, if you guys are ready for financial freedom right now, comment freedom below in the comments or give me some other comment to help out the YouTube algorithm so that we can get this video out to more people. All right, you guys, let's dive in and talk about my $1 million portfolio. And I am sharing this just to show you what's possible and how I've been able to achieve this. So hopefully it will give you some inspiration or motivation or just some ideas on how you can create this for yourself. And I'm just going to talk about the different properties that I have acquired and how I've been able to do that. And then I'm going to talk about what investments I have in the stock market. So let's talk about my first property, which I purchased back in 2005, so quite a while ago. And this is a townhome. It is a 3-bedroom, 3.5-bath place. And I purchased this property in the South Salt Lake City, Utah area. So it's not in the heart of downtown, but just kind of in the outskirts, which is still a really good area because this property is really close to the freeways and to the canyons and to shopping. It's a really good central location. And that's part of the reason that I purchased this property is because it's in such a great location. And another reason I purchased this property was because I wanted to have roommates living with me to help pay my mortgage. And this was a perfect setup because it has the 3 bedrooms with 3.5 baths. So we all had our own bathroom plus a little half bath on the main level. So when guests would come over, they could use that bathroom instead of one of ours. When I was looking for this property, it ended up working out so that I actually purchased the property I was already living in. I had a roommate that had gotten married that owned the place. And she had gotten married and moved out, and we were still there renting the place, me and my 2 roommates. And I had started looking for a place to purchase, and she had come back and told us that she wanted to sell the place. And I thought, this could be an option. And when I looked at some other properties in the surrounding area, pretty close to this property, I found that actually purchasing the property I was already living in would work out very well, and it's a really good property. So I ended up purchasing that property in December of 2005 for about $130,000, and it was right before the peak of the market, which kind of happened in 2006, the next year. So prices had started to rise, but they weren't quite at that very top of the market. So I got this at a fairly good deal. I felt good about buying it, and I am so glad I bought it now because this property is now worth about $265,000. So with this property, I've seen my money double in value if I was to sell the property now, which I don't intend to do. I invest for the long term. I plan to hold my properties for as long as possible and just keep renters in them. When I purchased this property, I didn't have to do any work to it. I was already living in the property, and it was a really well-maintained property. And luckily, I didn't have to do any new carpet or remodel anything. I have painted the property since, but that's essentially all I've done. I have, purchased things like a new refrigerator and a new AC, a new furnace, things like that you'll probably have to purchase when you hold a property for a long period of time. But I didn't have to do any major remodel or major updates to the property. And since this property is a townhome, I do pay an HOA fee with the property, but that means I don't have to take care of anything on the exterior. I don't have to replace the roof or things like that. So it's a very low maintenance property, which I really like. The way that I was able to get a down payment for this property was because I actually saved my money. I was a really big saver, and I still am a big saver, but I'm more of an investor now. But I had just been saving my money, and I had a bunch in savings, and I kept thinking I need to do something with this money because it's just sitting in my savings account, not really working for me and not even keeping up with inflation, the rate of inflation, which is usually about 3%. And I was not earning that in my savings account. And I had talked to one of my friends who is big into real estate investing, him and some of his siblings own quite a few properties, and they've been really successful with this. So I talked to him about purchasing a property and got advice from him, and he kind of actually helped me buy this first property. And my sister is a real estate agent, so she kind of helped me along this process as well. I don't think she was actually an agent at the time that I purchased this property, but she was working for a real estate company. In purchasing this property, I decided to go with 2 mortgages because I didn't want to put 20% down on my property. And usually people will have to pay what's called PMI, private mortgage insurance, when they don't put 20% down on their property because the bank wants some type of insurance in case you foreclose on your property. And the way they do that is by charging this kind of extra insurance. It's a fee every month that you have to pay with your mortgage payment if you don't put that 20% down. But when I was running the numbers, I decided it would be better for me to actually take out 2 mortgages, and one was a larger mortgage and one was just smaller. And I think the smaller one was maybe around like $13,000, $15,000, something like that. And I was able to pay off that second mortgage very quickly. And I still have my first mortgage, which I will probably pay off next year. So I'm really excited about that. But that's how I chose to purchase this property, is by doing 2 separate mortgages, and they were with the same lender. And that way I wouldn't have to pay this private mortgage insurance, this extra fee with my mortgage payment. So that is my first property, and I still have that property, and I still have one of my roommates that I was living with when I lived in that property. I've since moved out, and I will get to that later. But she's still there, so she's been there for a really long time. I think I lived with her for like 4 or 5 years or something. And then she's still been there the 3 years, just over 3 years, that I have since moved out. So she has been a great tenant. And then I have 2 other single girls in there. And this property is making me $1,650 in rent every month. And, you know, I could raise the tenant's rent that has been there so long. I have raised it a little bit, but she's such a good tenant that I want to keep her there. So I haven't raised her rent up to current market value. So I could be getting a little more for this property, but I'm okay with not raising her rent, so she feels comfortable staying there. All right, let's talk about my second property that I purchased. And this property I purchased strictly as a rental investment. I did not live in this property. And this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, and it's about 10 minutes away from my first property, so in a similar area in that South Salt Lake City area. And I purchased this one in April of 2015, and prices were, started to go back up after the big crash in 2008, 2009, but they weren't skyrocketed or anything. So I feel like it was a good time to buy. I had looked at a few different places and ended up settling on this condo because when I first moved to Salt Lake City, I used to live in this complex. I actually lived in the unit right next to the one that I purchased. So kind of funny, but I really liked living in that complex. It's a really good area. And so I ended up putting an offer in on this place, and the seller came back and counter offered. And I thought, okay, I can come up a little bit. It would still be worth it for me to purchase this property by coming up. And I think I just came up maybe, I don't know, $3,000 or something. So it wasn't a huge jump. And then they came back and said, no, we still want a little bit more. And I thought, no, I'm going to just stick with this offer. If they don't take it, then another property will be out there for me that I can take. And so they came back and they said, well, don't give up on us yet. Let us think about this for a little bit. And they ended up thinking about it and came back and agreed to my offer. I ended up purchasing this property for $121,450. When I bought this condo, I had money in my savings account again. I had just been saving up. And you guys, honestly, set goals that you want to achieve, because this made a huge difference for me. When I was purchasing properties, I knew I wanted to make my money work for me, and I was spending a lot of money on clothes, and I refocused my efforts and thought, I don't really need to be buying all of these clothes. They aren't really bringing me lasting joy, and I regret buying a lot of them. I've taken a lot of clothes to Goodwill, and I wish I would have spent my money on something that was going to make my money work for me. Keep that in mind when you are thinking about what you're spending your money on, and really focus on what's important to you. So buying properties has been a priority for me, and I really watch what I spend my money on. So I had enough in my savings account to put 20% down on this property, and that's what I did. Because it was a rental property, you need to put 20% down. And of course, I didn't have the PMI, the private mortgage insurance, since I put 20% down. And this property, it needed a little bit of work, but it wasn't, super bad or in terrible shape. So I ended up renting the property as soon as I had purchased it. I put it up for rent. I didn't do any major updates or any upgrades or anything like that, and was able to get the property rented. And I did that for, I guess it was 2 years. And then I decided to do some updates with the property just to make it a little bit nicer and have it easier to rent, and I could charge a little bit more for the property. So I did do some upgrades, and that was about $6,000. And I updated the kitchen. I did new countertops, new cabinets in the kitchen, and I did new flooring in the bedrooms. They had carpet in there that was not that great. So I put in the fake hardwood flooring, and I put that in the bedrooms, bathrooms, and in the kitchen. And the people that owned the place before I had purchased it had put in a similar fake hardwood in the main living room and dining room area. So I just left that there and redid the other floors. So it looks a lot nicer. And then I redid the bathrooms. I put in new vanities. And by me saying I put it in, I didn't put it in. I paid someone to do the updates for me. So like I said, I spent about $6,000 on these updates. Oh, and I did a fresh coat of paint. And it looks really, really nice. So now this property is worth about $189,000. And I get about $1,200 a month in rent for this property. And once again, this does have an HOA payment since it is a condo, but once again, I'm not taking care of any of the exterior updates that need to happen, or lawn care, things like that. So it has been worth it for me to go this route. And then the third property that I purchased was in 2016, July of 2016, actually 2 days after my birthday, so happy birthday to me. I purchased this property for $211,000, and my original offer did not include closing costs, but the seller came back and asked if I would include closing costs, and if so, he would go with my offer, even though he had better offers. And he could have been lying to me, but I believed him, and I still thought it would be worth it to include the closing costs. So I adjusted my offer, left it at $211,000, but decided to pay the closing costs. And I ended up closing on the home. And I decided to purchase another townhome so I wouldn't have to take care of the yard or any exterior part of the home. And when I was looking for a property, the market was rising. It was a little harder to find a place, but it really hadn't topped out. It still hasn't topped out, actually. But I knew I wanted to get another property because I had seen such success with my 2 previous properties. And this property I wanted to move into so that I wouldn't have to put 20% down on my property. So I could put down less. I think I put down 5% on this property. And once again, I was just saving a lot of my money, and I had that extra income from my other rental property that I was saving as well, so that I could purchase this property. So I just took out savings that I had and was able to purchase this property. And it is when I purchased it, it was a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath property, and I have since finished the basement, so now it is a 4-bedroom and 3.5 bath property. And I live in the basement and have a bedroom down here, my own bathroom, and then a little living room and a little kitchenette. So it's kind of like my own space, which is nice. And that cost me about 20 grand to finish the basement. So now this property, and I got a BPO, a broker's price opinion, which is similar to an appraisal, but a little less expensive. And I actually did a video about this recently, getting rid of my PMI, my private mortgage insurance on this house. So you can check that video out if you are interested in seeing how to get rid of your PMI without paying an expensive appraisal fee. Anyway, so I just did the broker's price opinion, and he came in at about $342,000 that this property is worth now. So this has gone up significantly just from purchasing it in 2016, so just over 3 years ago. So I'm really, really glad that I purchased this property. And I do have 3 roommates living with me right now, which brings in $1,720 per month for this property. Luckily, when I purchased the property, I didn't have to do any updates to it. I had just decided to finish the basement a while later so that I could have an extra bedroom and rent that out. This property is really close to my other 2 properties, within about 10-15 minutes of those properties. And I really like keeping all of my properties pretty close together because it makes them easier to manage, since I am doing all of the property management for my properties. And then my 4th property that I purchased that last year in 2018, and it was June of 2018. And the market was pretty crazy, and it's still getting crazier. But I knew I wanted to get at least 1 more property, and I still might buy 1 more. I am debating that. But I really wanted to get another property just because of the success I was having with real estate and the freedom that it really does create for me. I'm able to not have a full-time job and set my own schedule, which I really, really like. So for this property, I decided to purchase a single-family home. This is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath place, and I purchased this property for $348,000, and now it's worth about $381,000. So it's gone up quite a bit in just over a year. So I am really happy about that. And for this property, I didn't take money only out of my savings account. I still had some savings that I used, but I ended up taking out money from my brokerage account. So I had a bunch of stocks that I had purchased a few years back, and I wanted to switch some of that money into real estate. So I ended up cashing out quite a bit of stocks from my brokerage account, and then I also pulled money from my Roth IRA. When you set up a Roth IRA, any amount that you contribute to your Roth, you can pull out at any time without a penalty. Now, the gains that you have on your Roth IRA, you can't pull those out without a penalty if you pull it out before age 59 and a half. But anything you contribute, you can. So I chose to do that. I chose to pull out some of my money from my Roth IRA and money from my brokerage account, and I used money from my savings to purchase this 4th property. And that is how I came up with the down payment for this property. And you know, I had looked at quite a few different homes and put in some other offers on different properties. And I put an offer in on this place, and they had come back and said, sorry, we're going with someone else, but would you want to be a backup offer? And I thought, yeah, sure, I'll be a backup offer. And I still continued to look for another place to buy because I didn't think I was going to get the property. But they came back, and turns out the first offer fell through. So they wanted to know if I still wanted to go through with my offer, and I did. When we were going through all of the steps to purchase the property, we have to do an appraisal. And when they did that, the appraisal actually came back $2 grand less than my original offer. And so I ended up paying $2 grand less than I offered because I didn't want to go above the appraisal price, and they still agreed to go ahead and drop that $2,000 so that we could actually close on the home. So I was really happy about that. And I used the same lender that I had used before for my second property. and my third property. And I was using my sister as my real estate agent, which is very handy, I know, but there are a lot of good real estate agents out there, so you can definitely find one. And another great thing about this home is that I didn't have to do any updates to it. I didn't even have to paint the place. They took really good care of the property and they had it in great condition to sell it. So they did a fresh coat of paint, and I had a few minor things that needed to be fixed on the property. So we asked if they would do them and they said yes. So they fixed a few minor things that needed to be fixed. Like for example, the fence was falling over on one side a little bit. And so they fixed that. And just a few other minor things. So it's a property that was ready to move into immediately. And the previous owners actually ended up renting from me for a month. They were moving to another state. So I agreed to have them rent the property for a month. And then I had single girls move into the property. This property brings me in $2,300 per month because I do rent it to single girls. So I can charge a little bit more for the property instead of just renting to a single family. And when one of the girls moves out, I don't have to rent the whole property. Part of it is still full, so I just have to rent that particular room out, which is kind of a benefit to renting to singles. And having a single family home now, yes, this is more work. I've had to do some work on the sprinklers and the yard, but it seems to be worth it because I'm not paying an HOA fee. And honestly, I don't know what type of property I will buy next because they both have pros and cons, townhomes and single family homes. So it kind of just, I guess, depends on what I can find. But the single family home is really nice because it doesn't have an HOA and the HOA fee will rise over the years. So you have to keep that in mind if you are looking at a townhome or a condo, or even there are some single family homes which have an HOA. Usually they're pretty low, but those can still rise over time. And this property, once again, is within about 10 minutes of my other properties. All in all, my properties altogether are worth about $1.177 million. And I do still have mortgages on them, so I'm not saying my net worth is over $1 million, but I'm just showing you what's possible with real estate. And I want to move over to the stock market and let you know what I have invested there. I have a brokerage account, so I still have stocks in a brokerage account, which means I can pull those out at any time, but I do have to pay taxes on them. And then I have money in a Roth IRA that I set up. And then I have money in a traditional IRA, which used to be in a 401k, in multiple 401ks, or two 401ks at my previous jobs, but I rolled both of those into a traditional IRA. So I have money in there, and I have money in an online savings account, and all of that is just over $200,000. So all in all, my portfolio is worth over $1.3 million. So hopefully you guys can see how I've been able to do this and kind of get some takeaways for yourself on how you could achieve this yourself. And you guys, a lot of it just had to do with me saving my money and investing my money, realizing what my priorities were, and really focusing on those priorities and setting goals for myself so that I could achieve over $1 million portfolio. And I do have mortgages that I am still paying on my properties, but once those mortgages are paid off, my net worth will go up so much more because those properties will continue to appreciate over time. And that's my strategy. It's to buy and hold properties for as long as possible. And I actually recently did another video about why I invest in real estate, so you can check out that video. I will leave the link below in the description. And you guys, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And if you guys have other content that you want me to create for you, please put that in the comments below. I love creating content that you guys want to see. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That will really help me out and help get this channel out to more people. And if you guys want to get 2 free stocks, Webull is doing a promotion right now where if you sign up for a free account, then you'll get 1 free stock, and if you deposit $100 into the account, you'll get a second free stock. So if you guys are wanting free stocks, then go ahead and click the referral link that I'll leave below in the description, and you can get your 2 free stocks and then do whatever you want with your $100. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks.